Welcome to IAS project. In this video, let's talk about economy during later Vedic period. Later Vedic economy was mostly a rural economy. This means that cities were not there. However, towards the end of later Vedic period, we have some signs of urbanism, which means that we have some evidences of towns that are arising at the end of later Vedic period. But during the most part of later Vedic period, it was basically a rural culture. It was not an urban culture. And how do we know that at the end of later Vedic period we have signs of urbanism? We have signs of urbanism mainly from two sources. First source is that later Vedic literature. In later Vedic literature, the word Nagara has been used. We know that Nagara basically means city. However, in the later Vedic literature, when the word Nagara was used, it did not mean city. Probably it meant only town. And the second evidence that we found of urbanism is archaeological evidences. When we have conducted excavations in northern India, then we have found that early evidence of towns was also there around 600 BCE, which is nothing but at the end of later Vedic period. So during the most part of later Vedic period, it was rural economy. Only at the very end of later Vedic period, towns emerged. So Hastinapur as well as Kaushambi can be considered as primitive towns that belong to later Vedic period. Please note that these were not cities because cities only occurred in Mahajanapada period. That is why we call Mahajanapada period as second stage of urbanization in India. You already know that first stage of urbanization was Indus civilization. After Indus civilization and before Mahajanapada period, there were no cities in India. So obviously in later Vedic period also there were no cities. But Hastinapur and Kaushambi were basically primitive towns, which means that they were ready to become towns. They were not towns yet. So we can consider these as proto-towns. The word proto here means before. So they were just becoming towns at the end of later Vedic period. Moreover, people during later Vedic period lived in mud brick houses and also in the houses that were built using wood, wattle and daub. We already know about mud brick houses, wattle and daub houses and wood houses. So what is important at this point is that stone was probably not used for construction of houses because stone is not easily available in the alluvial plains. And Aryans were mainly living in alluvial plains of rivers of Ganges, Yamuna and its tributaries. Here stone is not easily available, but mud is available. So people were living in mud brick houses and also forests were available. So they were making wooden houses and wattle and daub houses. Another important point that you have to note here is that people did not use burnt bricks. This is very important because burnt bricks were first used in Indus civilization. And after Indus civilization, burnt bricks were used only in Mahajanapada period. So between Indus civilization and Mahajanapada period, burnt bricks were not used in India. When we talked about later Vedic agriculture, we have learnt that for the most part of later Vedic period, Aryans only used wooden plowshare. Iron plowshare was only used at the end of later Vedic period. So for the most part, it was actually wooden plowshare. So because of wooden plowshare, food production was done. But food production was not too surplus. There was some surplus which the Vaishyas were giving in the form of taxes and tributes to the king. And king was then distributing these taxes and tributes to Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. But the food production was not too surplus. Whenever food production becomes too surplus, what happens is urban life develops. So since the food production was not too surplus in later Vedic period, most of the population had to practice agriculture. That is why these agriculture practicing Aryans were living in villages. They did not develop towns and cities. So this is one of the reasons why cities and towns did not develop in later Vedic period. But in the case of Mahajanapada period, we know that iron plowshare was extensively used. And because of the iron plowshare, the efficiency of agriculture increased. So what happened is, because of this increased efficiency in agriculture, most of the population need not do agriculture. That is why some people went into trade and commerce. When people went into trade and commerce, they need not live in villages anymore. They were living in towns and cities. That is why in Mahajanapada period, towns and cities developed. But in the case of later Vedic period, most people were doing agriculture only with wooden plowshare. Iron plowshare was not there. That is why they were living in villages. So this completes our economy topic of later Vedic period. In our next lecture, we will start the last topic, which is the religion during later Vedic period. Please like and subscribe. You can download this presentation from our Telegram channel. The name of the channel is IAS Project. The link for this channel has been given in the description section below. Thank you.